Allô, Nissan? Hey, grosse tempête, hein?
Hey, Karine, oui, je sais, les vilains bonhommes de neige sont de retour.
Mais avec le Nissan Rogue à traction intégrale, c'est pas stressant.
Exact, il est conçu et testé pour nos hivers. Oh, Karine, il y a un bonhomme dans le Rogue.
Ah, c'est correct. J'ai allumé les sièges chauffants.
Ah, bien joué, Karine. Maîtrisez toutes les conditions. Louez le Rogue S 2026 à partir de 0,4% jusqu'à 36 mois, incluant une réduction fidélité de 0,5% pour les clients Nissan admissibles. Jusqu'au 2 mars, sur approbation de crédit, les conditions s'appliquent. Détails chez Nissan.
All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. Now let's take a look at Monday and figure out if it really was the craziest day in Canadian politics ever. By now, we've heard the stories, and it begins on Friday. A Zoom call where the Prime Minister tells the Finance Minister, you're going to deliver your fall economic statement. Oh, yeah, and then right after, you're going to be booted out, and Mark Carney is going to replace you. Monday culminated in moments where we just didn't know who would deliver the fall economic statement, and then longtime ally Dominic LeBlanc ended up in the post of finance minister, and it was just a crazy day. Calls for the prime minister to resign. Historical context-wise, was it the craziest day? Let's try and find out. Laurie Turnbull's with us, professor of political science at Dalhousie University. Laurie, it's a pleasure to talk to you.
It's a pleasure to talk to you, too. Thanks for having me.
And I'm so happy to find out that Dalhousie University has another professor other than Sylvain Charlebois. This is just fantastic news.
Yes, right. I am in fact a Dalhousie professor, too.
And we love Sylvain, by the way. We kid. Okay, so Laurie, what's your take on what transpired on Monday and I guess the couple of days preceding that? Was it the craziest day in Canadian politics ever?
It's the craziest one that I can remember, that's for sure. And largely because of the timing of her announcement, right? Like, it's not just that Freeland walked away. It's clearly she timed it in a moment where this was going to cause total chaos for the Prime Minister. He was caught off guard. We went the whole day without a finance minister, didn't know who was going to read the economic update, if anybody, and really left him, a sense of him scrambling. And so now he's canceled all of his end of year interviews. Feels like he's hiding. Like, this is a weird moment.
But we always like to, whatever's the most recent, right? We're like, oh, this is the best or this is the worst, right? Because it's what we remember the most. You with far much more insight and background here. Is there any other examples like this? Is there anything else you take from the past where you say, well, hang on a second, we also have some other pretty crazy stories in Canada's political history?
I mean, like, we can think of times like, when basically the entire, I think they were calling themselves the Canadian Alliance at the time, quit because, 12 of them, I think, quit because Stockwell Day, they didn't appreciate his leadership anymore. And there was some kind of power struggle there. And there was a separation of a big chunk of the caucus and the leadership, then the leader quit, then they went back. That was a little weird, but it was less impactful because he wasn't the Prime Minister. The Chrystia and Martin years were pretty weird in terms of, we still don't really know if he quit or was fired. But at the same time, they held it together enough that we knew that who the finance minister was, we knew who the prime minister was. There was not this kind of sense of, does anybody have confidence in this person or not? This tops it for me. I'm looking through my mind, and I mean, 1926 when the King Byng affair, that would have been pretty weird.
Okay, tell me, I don't know if you can give me the Coles notes on that one. What was the King Byng affair?
Well, essentially, Prime Minister Mackenzie King was going to lose the confidence of the House. So he went to the Governor General and asked him, can I have an election? Can we dissolve the House? And the Governor General said no. And so you're fired. And then he got the leader of the opposition at the time to come in and form a government. That lasted like a month. And then they went to election. But it was weird because it was the only time a Governor General ever said no to a Prime Minister.
So, and so we're with Laurie Turnbull from Dalhousie University, the Department of Political Science over there. So let's look at the paths forward from here. As you see it, right, where the Prime Minister is at right now, what are his paths forward?
Okay, so there are a finite number, right? Like, he can take his walk in the snow over Christmas, come back and say, okay, I quit. If he did that, he would need probably to prorogue the House, which means that Parliament would stop sitting for a while, and the Liberals would have a leadership race and choose somebody else. Because the caucus can't actually choose the leader on their own. They could choose an interim leader, which they'd need to do because we need a Prime Minister. But then the party could choose someone else to lead them into the next election. So that's one option. Another option is that he goes back to the House and waits to be defeated. And that's definitely possible because now the opposition leaders are all saying this guy's got to go. So if he doesn't leave on his own, I think they're probably going to have to put their money where their mouth is and defeat him. And in which case he goes to an election as the leader of the party, as the prime minister of the country, and kind of under this cloud of having been defeated when even his own party was walking away and he didn't take the hint. The other option is that he could go in, try to get to the point of a budget, and then go call the election on his own, right? Like if he wants to go to an election, do it on his own terms, drop a budget, and then go to the Governor General and ask for dissolution, depending on how he wants to frame this. The big question is he going to quit before the next election or not?
And obviously that is the big question. I know he's canceled all of the end of year interviews, which I think speaks volumes that he can answer that question, right? Like if he could answer that one question, what are you going to do? He wouldn't cancel the interviews. I guess that's one of the reasons why it was canceled.
I agree with you, and that's the only question he's going to get.
Exactly right, and he will not get a single other question until he answers that. Can I ask you your thoughts on how the opposition parties have handled this? I guess first things first, Jagmeet Singh and the NDP, because they clearly are in the position where if they wanted to, they could bring down the government at this point, yet they aren't. What are your thoughts on how the opposition parties have handled all this?
Well, I mean, for Poilievre, this really doesn't change anything, right? Like he's been demanding an election. He still wants an election. It's pretty well all systems go for him. For Jagmeet Singh, he's in a more difficult situation in that he's been propping up the government all this time, and now it's much harder for him to do that when the prime minister is clearly got internal problems. There are questions about his legitimacy as prime minister because we don't know if his party even supports him anymore. And if the NDP keeps him alive, right, like that just is not a good look for them. So now Singh is saying, look, he's got to go. But what are they going to do if he doesn't? Like, are they going to try to organize an opposition day? Like, they'll have to wait for an opposition day once Parliament comes back to issue a motion of non-confidence if that's what they want to do. But when the NDP does that, and the bloc would have to be on board too, all three opposition parties would have to vote in favor of a no-confidence motion in order for it to pass. But chances are you'd probably get some Liberals voting for it too. Does he want to live that embarrassment? I don't know. But then once that happens, we're headed to a general election. It looks like the Conservatives are going to clean up. And then the NDP are stuck in a worse position than they are now because, they won't be that swing vote anymore. So no wonder I completely understand why they're not exactly galloping to the polls right now because it's probably not going to do anything to help them.
Do you think the NDP lost their chance? Because you would think with a very unpopular prime minister and the Liberals polling so low, and it's been a while that it's been that way, that they could have at a different point in time, months ago, taken advantage of the situation? Do you think they failed in some respects?
Yes. I think that the whole confidence and supply agreement was a total miscalculation on the part of the NDP. And I know people will yell at me for that and say, look at the things we got. We got pharmacare and we got dental. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? We would have got those things anyway if the two parties really wanted to do them. If they had held the Liberals' feet to the fire every vote, demanded concessions every vote, make them work for it. Don't just tell them you're going to support them up front, because now the NDP, I think, are really struggling to show the voter that there's any light between them and the Liberals. Yeah. Why should a voter vote for the NDP instead of the Liberals? Not really clear. It's not clear why the NDP should get the vote rather than the Conservatives. They've been losing a lot of votes for the Conservatives. So I don't know. I think they're in a mess.
Laurie, just on the streets of Halifax, just what do you think the vibe is of the average voter in Eastern Canada, in Nova Scotia? What do you think the vibe is?
Nova Scotia just had a provincial election where the Conservatives won 43 of 55 seats. So there's that. Yeah. I think probably, there's massive frustration with things that everybody's frustrated with. Cost of living, the housing issue. I think there's in Atlantic Canada a lot of frustration with the carbon tax because a lot of places in Atlantic Canada, not taking your car is not an option. There's no transit. It's a very, we have big metropolitan areas in Atlantic Canada, but we got a lot of rural space too. And so there's a lot of resentment about the carbon tax is slapping this on in a way that is punitive at a time that people really can't afford it. And I think people are there's definitely a sense of a change momentum. Now, I don't want to paint all of Atlantic Canada with the same brush.
Of course. Houston
held on to government big time, increased his majority at the same time that Blaine Higgs and New Brunswick got bounced out the month earlier.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
We shall see.
Laurie, hey, tremendous discussion. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
That's Lori Turnbull right there, professor of political science at Dalhousie University.